This is Matt Gifford of Hawk Hill Hardwood, here talking to St. Joe's head coach Phil Martelli. Good afternoon, Coach. How are you?
Matt, how you doing?
Wonderful, thanks. Phil, I feel like really the best way here in July to start in the off-season, when typically there's not much going up, is talking about DeAndre, because for it to be the off-season and to have this much discussion and buzz around a certain player is kind of unique. Could you talk a little bit about the feedback that you got from people around the Nike camp last weekend with DeAndre, and also a little bit about how maybe that combined with the season in general is altering the way you approach him this coming season and the media and everything?
Well, I think it's really it's just a great position. It's a great position for DeAndre. It's a great position for the program. The feedback that I got ranged from Nike personnel who trusted me enough to invite him to the camp, believed what I was telling them, that he was one of the best players in America. NBA scouts who talked about his conditioning. And so for that, I applaud Brian Bing. I applaud the assistant coaches, particularly Dave Duda, because one of the things that we did when the season ended is we shut him down. He was allowed to work on his stroke, but he was not allowed to be playing pickup or doing the heavy individual work off the bounce. We really concentrated on his shooting. People talked about his conditioning. He was very, very ready. His mental approach, he tried to impact every play. And now we're set up to take advantage of what I hope the NCAA will pass in this combine. The combine idea. It's just a great idea for a young guy like this to go through the season, to put his name in the draft, to have a chance to be invited. If you're one of the 70 players invited, then you know that they think a certain thing about you. If you're not invited, then they're telling you and they're screaming at you, go back to school.
When just looking at the draft this year, at the number of guys that left early that went undrafted.
Right. And now you go to the combine, you try out, and then they tell you. Some people would say, well, it's going to put the coaches at a disadvantage. You have to hold a scholarship. So I guess I would ask anybody out there, are you not interested in holding a scholarship for a fourth-year DeAndre Bembry? And how are we going to do better than that? So, yeah, we'll hold the scholarship. We'll give him a chance to chase his lifelong dream. He's very casual about this. He's casual about a lot of things in terms of like personality, but here's what we're focusing on. Live for today. It's July. We can't impact next May in July. We can get better and we can build on it. We're going to go over a script with him. How are we going to address the media when this comes around? And let's hope that he's a first-round draft pick. Because if he's a first-round draft pick, or projected to be a first-round draft pick, he's had a hell of a year, and we've had a hell of a year. Because they really do emphasize, as we can see by Darren Hilliard being drafted, they emphasize winning and winning big.
Okay. Kind of building a little bit off of that, some schools are gradually starting to release their schedules for the coming year. St. Joe's has not released a schedule for the coming year yet. Without going into details with it, can you talk a little bit? I know scheduling's a little bit ways out that you project forward, but having someone like DeAndre, having a young core that's now a year older, did that alter the way that you planned this year in terms of some of the tournaments and in terms of some other things?
Well, the thing that we altered, Matt, to be honest with you, we're done. Okay, so there shouldn't be panic in the streets. We're done scheduling. It's a matter now of there's a very big local game that national TV is kind of banging around date-wise. We're going to react to that. We're going to play the date that the game will get maximum exposure. We have an opportunity to be involved in something a little bit special with regard to the league and scheduling. We're waiting for the approval from them, but we're done. And we've really tried to balance next year's schedule, so 16-17, by going on the road. We're going on the road to Columbia so that we have them coming back.
That'll be
in 16-17, right? So we can get some balance. We have a bye game in there. We have tournament. One of the things that we've been able to do is to build on some of the successes that we had with regard to Langston and Halil and Ron, so that we have tournaments now playing out. We're going to go back to Puerto Rico. We're going to go back to Charleston. We're going to be in the Wooden Classic on the West Coast. So those are kind of laid out for the next several years. And we do use that in recruiting to tell a kid, this is what is coming down the line. These are the kind of games that you're going to have. So with this young group, in that first week, to have a chance to play Drexel, to play Niagara, to play Buffalo, to play Florida, that's a name that resonates with them. And the best team in that tournament may well be Purdue.
I was going to say, now that probably is.
So, you have those kind of opportunities along with what we have locally. I'm really happy with how this schedule came out. Illinois State. Mm-hmm. It's a heck of a game.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good game. And again, it was a lot of work that goes into scheduling, and we're gonna benefit from that, not only this year but going forward.
Okay. Speaking about going forward, one thing that maybe some people watching this are not familiar with, I'm sure you very much are, is the new eligibility change, possibly for the 2016 class. I was wondering kind of what your thoughts on these new, tougher admissions and eligibility requirements are, and maybe for those that don't know as much about it, could you talk a little bit about how it might actually impact the way you look at things and the way college basketball kind of looks at recruiting?
The challenges that lie ahead are very daunting. Mm-hmm. These new rules are going to impact a segment of the basketball society unfairly, in my opinion, but they are coming. There's no hold on, stop. Do you know what's going on? We have been versed in the percentages of how this will impact the last several classes. If they were under these present rules, 51% of the Atlantic 10 incoming freshmen would be ineligible.
So
that's dramatic.
This is significant.
It's a significant change. And with regard to, we try in every way possible to educate. So when the assistant coaches are on the phone with whether it would be an AAU, whether it would be a high school coach, whether it's with a family, where are we? How are we doing? We have a list now that we're going to go out and we're going to try to get 3 of these guys to join our program. Mm-hmm. And we vetted them basically. Where are they academically? And what are the chances that we're not going to get? What are the chances of them being successful at St. Joseph's? Starting with admission.
Yeah.
I don't admit anybody. Never have, never will admit anybody to St. Joseph's. Once I put my name on somebody, I will explain to the powers that be, this is why this young man has a chance to be successful. I think it's going to have a dramatic impact. I think young guys who are really good students are going to get recruited higher.
Yeah, I've always wondered that.
It's just going to keep bumping it up. I have a name in mind of a young guy that we've done a lot of work with, and I think at the end of this period, his recruiting is going to be higher than really his game warrants. Because people have to be sure that, people celebrate these recruiting wins as if they're regular season wins. Mm-hmm. So you better be sure that this guy's going to get on the court. And it's a challenge. It's certainly a challenge. And it is forcing us in recruiting to kind of expand our list to say, well, what's going on with this guy? What's going on with that guy? Maybe he's not the right basketball player, but he's going to be the right combination player and student.
Okay. So kind of one other thing built off of that, the transfer situation in college basketball with the over 400 this past offseason. Do you think that these new eligibility things could impact that too, where if you have a player who was successful at another school academically and basketball-wise, they too could probably, and I'm thinking of a couple guys off the top of my head locally and otherwise, that could make a jump because they've proven that academically they're okay, and it's less of a risk for maybe a higher profile school to take them on.
I think the transfer thing is the genie out of the bottle, to be honest with you. That number now is closing in on 700 for this year. Okay. They attempt it by stating, no waivers. Everybody sits a year, and the number's still that high. The fifth-year thing is completely out of control. I think they're working really hard to kind of corral that and say to somebody, you want to do this? Then let's see if you're willing to take a kid for 2 years, where a kid really could get a master's. Mm-hmm. Because calling it the way it is, these kids aren't getting masters in a year.
They're just eligible to play.
They're just eligible to play basketball. They impact your APR, which is like the untold story, because you lose a guy that has graduated and he doesn't finish second semester because, hey, I played my 35 games. I'm out of here. I just questioned the loyalty and the expense. A school like St. Joseph's spends X amount of money educating and helping a young man get there and get to what one of his goals should be in playing college basketball, to get that college degree. And now all of a sudden, a kid's going to pack up and leave. There's a lot of influences out there. We have to become the major influence in a young guy's life while he's with us. And it also, though, Matt, goes into like the recruiting model. Like we were talking about DeAndre. Well, DeAndre, and he's a first-round pick, and we know he's going to be a first-round pick next March. And are you going to use the scholarship now? We'll hold it. Mm-hmm. Because guess what? 700 kids are going to transfer next year, too.
That was going to be my follow-up question. I was going to say, just with that over the last maybe half a dozen years being what it is now, that has to impact the way you look at your numbers.
No, there's no question about it. Okay. There's absolutely no question about it. We've been involved in a couple of situations this spring, and I'm glad that we were involved. What it does, though, everybody needs to understand is that it puts more on the kids and it puts more on the coaches, because people just say, well, the off season. We were joking earlier off camera about off season. Well, there's no off season, because you're literally now recruiting your team, you're recruiting your future teams, and now you have to have an eye and an ear out for the transfer market to say, okay, what's really going on? And the thing that I find disturbing in the transfer market is not the fact that kids are transferring, but the thing that I find is kids are announcing, I have a list of 10, I have a list of 6.
It's the recruitment all over again.
So are they in love with recruiting, or are they really dissatisfied with where they are and they need to go somewhere else? That's what I'm concerned about.
Okay. And then the final question, it being July, it being Monday the 6th, your heavy July, August recruitment starts on Wednesday. I'm not going to ask specifics about that, but you've been doing this now for over 20 years. How has recruiting changed from when you first started here at St. Joe's as a head coach to now? And kind of the gist of what I'm getting at is, have the kids changed? Has the culture changed? Has AAU changed things? Obviously recruiting has changed, but what about it?
Yeah, I would start with the idea that AAU, for anybody that thinks AAU is bad, I disagree with that. Because there are a lot of good people, and here's what they do. They get good players to play against good players. And when I first started, you were going to summer leagues, and maybe a kid was going to show up or not show up. One of the best players that we ever had here, I was on the phone with him at 5 o'clock. Sonny Hill was playing in our old field house at 6 o'clock. The kid told me he's not coming to the game. So I made alternate plans. When I walked out of my office at 5:55 to go to another game, the kid was warming up. So you're like, wow. And so AAU keeps the kids organized. It keeps the schedule organized so that you know that you're going place A, place B, place C, place D. Before, we had more days. It was more hit or miss. Maybe I'll go over to Narberth. Maybe I'll go to Sunny Hill. And where is the kid? Or, he went and played in a school game instead of playing in the summer league. So I find that to be a positive. I think the kids are very in tune with recruiting. I think they welcome recruiting. And I applaud them, because I think a lot of kids are having recruiting happen with them and not to them. And when I first started, it was something that happened to them. It's funny how it's kind of turned. When I first started, parents were heavily involved, and then we got away from that, and really their summer coaches got heavily involved, and now we've gone back to really being parental involvement. So I probably text 1/3 of my texts go to parents.
Okay.
And so the healthier rules of unlimited phone calls, unlimited texting certainly helps. But the social media thing, with kids wanting to put out all their information or to be mistaken about one phone call means I was offered a scholarship, that part of it is different. But basically we go to these places and we still evaluate. So evaluating is whether or not we're going to offer the scholarship. Once we've offered the scholarship, then recruiting kicks in. Okay. And what I have basically now is I have 12 man days. Wednesday through Sunday, 3 weeks in a row. How many man days can I give one kid to make him feel special? Okay. That's a little different.
Okay. All right, great. Well, Phil, thank you so much.
Thanks,
we will
Matt.
do another one of these interviews in the fall, right around when practice starts back up.
That would be great. And as always, we're going to work out on Mondays and Tuesdays until the week of August 3rd and 4th. We'll work out from 3:30 to 4:30. Anybody's welcome. Just are the freshmen here? Yes. Papa now is involved in a paper chase. He's still at home. Okay. He hasn't gotten out. And Markel Lodge was in a very serious car accident, so he's a little bit banged up. He's back. He's in school. He started school on time, but he's a little bit back, so we don't have him yet. But everybody else, we try to give a full competitive hour. Anybody's welcome. We would welcome all of our fans to stop in and see the improvements that hopefully have been made.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Matt.
And thank you for watching.